Hello everyone and come on in. Welcome to Lumiwealth's webinar for tonight, getting started with Web3 dApp development. My name is Alexandra and I will be your host for tonight's webinar. Hope everyone's excited and we're back for another free webinar. We'll also have one tomorrow night at the same time about the blockchain, but tonight is more about Web3. So as everyone trickles in, I will talk about the agenda for tonight. First, we'll introduce Lumiwealth and what we do here, the kinds of classes we teach, and then we'll talk about Web3 and dApp development. We're going to do a bird's eye view covering the space. And we'll also talk about the course coming this winter, actually starting this week. We begin our winter semester on Wednesday. So you still have a last chance to sign up before we begin. And so tonight we'll talk all about the course as well, because in the course we cover Web3 and decentralized apps and how to build them. So tonight is more of theory and talking about the different terms and what you need to know about the space. And then in the course, we actually build projects. So we're not building any project tonight, but in the course, it's 10 weeks long and we do build lots of projects there. So welcome in. We'll talk about web development in general, as well as dApp development specifically, building applications that use Web3. So we'll talk about what is Web3, what are dApps, how does this all work, and why did we create this course in the first place. We've run the course a couple times now, and it's been a success, so we are running it again in the winter. First, let's discuss who's on the call today. So if you are brave enough, please feel free to drop in the chat here at Circle and let me know, what is your occupation? Do you know how to code? And how much experience do you have with web development or blockchain development? Or just, do you have any knowledge of the blockchain at all? This will give me a good understanding of the level that we have tonight in the audience. So if we have beginners, then I'll make sure to cover beginner topics and explain everything. But if you already have some knowledge, then that will be good to know. So feel free to drop in the chat and let me know about your experience. Let me know if you've ever attended one of our webinars before or if you've enrolled in any of our courses. So I'll begin. My name is Alexandra. I'm an instructor here at Lumiwealth, also a software developer at Mammoth Interactive. And I began my journey with blockchain in 2017 when I invested in Ethereum. And since then, I've taught thousands of students online how to build decentralized apps and smart contracts. We also have a message from one of our participants, Gia, a product manager, no experience on blockchain, just high-level concept. Okay, sounds great. Most of my students are complete beginners. They don't have any experience and usually no coding experience either. So I expect that once again, we'll have the same thing where we don't have any experience in coding, but that's totally fine. Even if you don't have experience, you can still follow along with the course because we do tailor it for absolute beginners. And so far we have had beginners in the courses. Here at Lumiwealth, we have lots of other courses as well, mostly in the financial industry, the financial space, but we do have a couple courses in the blockchain space as well because of how it's affecting the financial industry. So please check out our other courses at lumiwealth.com. Tomorrow night, we'll have a free webinar all about blockchain programming, but then we have tons of webinars as well about all these different courses like trading, algorithmic trading, crypto trading, machine learning, and more. We also will be posting this webinar on Circle and on YouTube. So if you want to watch back, then you can. You can watch at lumiwealth.circle.so or go to our YouTube channel, which I will drop in the chat. And please subscribe because we are posting webinars and tutorials and interviews. And if you want to follow along with the slides, I'll also drop a link to the slides in the chat in case you want to save them or read them later. And of course, we're on Circle. If you're watching live, you know that already. We do have a Discord, but we prefer Circle as the student space. However, if you do want to join us on Discord and chat with us there, that's like our secondary channel. Feel free, even if you're not a student, anyone can join the Discord channel. If you have any questions during the night, please feel free to ask. We'll also have time at the end. But if you need me to clarify a term or explain something in more detail, then please feel free to ask. I want to make sure that we tailor it for our live participants today. All right. Without further ado, we can begin our first topic of the night, and that is web development. You might be thinking, why web development when we're supposed to be talking about Web3 and dApps? Well, in order to enter the Web3 space and the dApp space, you have to connect that part of the project, the Web3, the dApp, you have to connect it to an existing piece of software or a traditional piece of software, such as a website. So before we can enter Web3 and build decentralized apps, we have to learn how to just build a regular app. So in our 10 weeks of this course, we begin in week 1 by just learning how to do regular software development, how to build a regular website. And then by week 2, and so on, we can start adding the decentralized layer, the Web3 aspect. But first, we have to just learn how to build a regular application or website or video game or whatever you are building that you're going to connect to the blockchain. So in this course, we focus on connecting websites to the blockchain because this is the primary way that we see right now Web3 being implemented, and this is the most popular type of dApp. So usually when you talk about a dApp, you're probably talking about a website that's connecting to the blockchain, but it could be any type of application, like a mobile app or a desktop app. It could be any type of software, but most often you'll see it be a website. And this is also the easiest way to get started if you've never programmed before. The simplest way is to learn how to build a website and then add the Web3 to that website. So we will begin by learning 3 core tools that every web developer learns to build a website. So we'll cover that in week 1 of the course, which is going to be on Wednesday. We'll talk about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. These are 3 tools for building a website. If you want to add Web3 and blockchain, you have to learn more tools. So we're going to just start with 3 tools to just build a regular app. It's like the framework or the skeleton for your Web3 project, because you need some kind of project or app that can then do a connection to the blockchain. So first we set up the app. And so we'll learn how websites work, how websites are made. And for that, we first learn HTML. This is a markup language. So very similar to a coding language where you're writing out a document, kind of like a Word file or a PDF, but the file type is HTML. So you're writing this file and you're listing out all of the elements of your web page. So that's what we will learn how to do first, is how to just set up the structure of a website. So HTML is used for that. Every website that you have ever been to is actually an HTML file. That's how websites are displayed and uploaded to the internet, is an HTML file. We'll also briefly cover CSS. This is a styling language. So it's used to add style to a page. So HTML is just to list out what elements are on the page. Like, do you want a button? Do you want images? That's built with HTML. And CSS is used to apply the styles, like to add colors, sizes, positioning, padding, to, add margins, or different font families, all of those styling aspects, we write them with CSS. And we'll also learn JavaScript. JavaScript is a programming language, and it is the primary language that we will use in this course. So throughout the 10 weeks, we will use JavaScript almost every week. So we will learn how to code in JavaScript from scratch. So even if you don't have coding experience, that's fine. We will cover all the fundamentals. If you already have experience, that will help you build the projects faster and definitely have less homework to do if you already have programming experience. So why JavaScript? Well, JavaScript is the primary language that powers the web. So if we want to build Web3 projects, dApp projects, decentralized apps, most of the time you're going to be building those projects, building that connection to the blockchain with JavaScript. It's all done with code. And about 98%, probably more than that now, of websites are built with JavaScript. So it's a very popular language, especially for building websites. If you want to build a different type of dApp, like a mobile app or a video game or some desktop application, well, those would probably use a different language depending on the platform, the project. But as long as you know the core programming fundamentals, like how to code in one language, then you can transfer your knowledge from one language to the other. Programming languages are all quite similar. They all build on the same concepts and you see the same patterns over and over. It's just in the small details, usually, that makes the difference. So if you can learn one programming language, then you can pick up another one. Now we focus on JavaScript throughout these 10 weeks, so we don't jump around to different languages. We just focus on one so you can get comfortable with coding. And then by being a programmer in JavaScript, you can transfer your skills to any other language if you do want to build a different type of project. So those are the first three tools: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So JavaScript is actually going to run all the functionality of your site. So anytime you want some actions or some behavior in a website, you have to do it with a coding language. And that goes for any project or app that you want to build. You'd need a coding language to build all the functionality. For websites, the language is JavaScript almost all of the time. And functionality means any type of action, like if you want to take user input or enable interactivity, all of that is built with JavaScript. Like if you want to sign users up or let the user buy something, or even if you want to let the user go to another page, or to send you a message, or to interact with a smart contract, or to mint a new token. All of those behaviors, you cannot write them with HTML and CSS. Those languages are not powerful enough. You need a coding language like JavaScript to actually write that behavior. So we'll learn how to write algorithms, which are just processes written in code, and they can handle all your functionality. So whatever kind of web app or dApp that you want to build, you can write the behavior in JavaScript. JavaScript is kind of like how you can build different paragraphs and books with English. Same idea with JavaScript. You can build different types of behaviors and algorithms with a coding language, like all those examples that I mentioned, like logging in or sending an email or trading an NFT or buying a token. All of that functionality, usually to do with the user input. So then in week 2, we will start building our first dApp. So by week 2, we'll be able to do that because we will know how to build a regular app. And then to build a dApp, you just add another layer of complexity on top. So we'll talk more about that shortly. So week 1, we just get comfortable building a regular application. And then by week 2 and until the end, week 10, we add more and more each week to our knowledge to build more and more complex projects every week. So there's a range of different projects that we'll talk about when we go through the curriculum together. But we start off simple at a beginner level, and then each week we keep building our knowledge to build larger projects. Right, so we'll have our first dApp finished at around the halfway point. So around week 4, week 5, we'll have our first complete dApp together that we built from scratch. And this course is actually 10 weeks, so it's supersized. Most courses that we have are 8 weeks, but this one is 2 extra weeks longer, so a bit of a bonus for you. Then around the midway point, around week 5, we learn another tool, another big tool called React.js. You can see it as the 4th one in this list. So we learn this around week 5 because it's a bit more complex. So we need to get comfortable first with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and just building dApps with those 3 tools. And then around week 5, we bring in React, which is actually a library of code, which means a bunch of files of code, and they're written in JavaScript. The point of React is that it's a tool to help you build more complex, more large websites. So if you have a bunch of different pages and the pages are long, they have a lot of different elements, then you want to use a tool like React to help organize your code and organize the website and how it's built. So with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you can usually build simple websites, but anything more complex than a landing page or just a portfolio, anything more complex than those, you want to use a tool like React. So we will introduce React at around the halfway point. Now, these 4 tools that you see on screen here, these are tools for web development. So every web developer will learn these tools. Now, if you can use JavaScript, then you actually access a bunch of other tools that are written in JavaScript. And these tools are like React or blockchain tools. So we'll learn these 4 tools, but also a lot more, especially for working with the blockchain. Because these 4 are just general web development tools. But then we're also going to learn what we need to connect to the blockchain and to connect to Web3. Speaking of which, let's talk about dApps. So now that we understand the tools for building just the app part of your project, because this is a Web3 course, we're going to have another side to the project for every project we build. You have the application side, which is, the main app. It's what you see. It's like the website or the mobile app. But then you also need to add a decentralized layer if you want to turn the dApp or the app into a dApp. So if you want to take a regular app and make it a decentralized one, you need this extra layer. And to add that blockchain layer, we use coding. So we'll use coding tools and libraries to connect to the blockchain. So what does this mean when we say connecting to the blockchain? Well, when we say a decentralized app, we're talking about any kind of software. So anything written in code that connects to decentralized technology or runs on decentralized computing. Now today, the most popular form of decentralized technology is the blockchain. So today, when we talk about building a dApp, we're talking about building an app that connects to the blockchain. That's a large definition because there's a bunch of different projects that you can create a whole bunch of different ways that you can connect to the blockchain. Maybe you just want to allow people to buy your product with cryptocurrency. Well, if you want to enable that, you have to connect to the blockchain because cryptocurrencies run on a blockchain. So just like that, you would be creating a dApp because you have your app and you're doing a connection to the blockchain. You're connecting to cryptocurrencies which live on the blockchain. So that's one example of a decentralized app, but you can see on screen here I have listed a whole bunch of other examples, and in our course we will learn how to build a whole variety of examples. So that example would be, you already have an existing website for your store. You're selling products, maybe you're selling shirts or courses, whatever you're selling. Maybe you already have the site or you have to build the site and you have to display all of your products and you have to enable people to buy and sell them. Now that could just be a regular store. To make it a dApp, you would have to make some kind of blockchain connection. For example, allow people to buy your products not just with their credit card or with PayPal, but also to have the option to buy products with cryptocurrencies. So that's one example of taking an app and adding the decentralized layer. By adding cryptocurrencies, you're adding that decentralized layer. Another example of a dApp is something like OpenSea. So if you go to OpenSea.io, this is the most popular marketplace for NFTs, non-fungible tokens. And this is an example of a dApp as well, because it's a website, which means it's an app, and it has a decentralized layer. How do I know that it has a decentralized layer? Well, because it's connecting to the blockchain. It's showing me data from the blockchain. So the website is using code to connect to the blockchain because the website is written with code and the blockchain is also written with code. So when you do this connection between your app and the blockchain, you're just writing some code to connect two pieces of software. Your website is one piece of software, the blockchain is another piece of software, and you can connect the two with a coding language like JavaScript. So this website, OpenSea, it's fetching data from the blockchain. So it's querying or connecting to the blockchain and asking it to send the latest NFTs or just all the NFTs, and then the website can sort them on its own. But the point is that the company OpenSea, they're not storing this data in their own databases or writing all of these from scratch. Instead, the website is communicating with the blockchain. So the website asks, send me the latest NFTs that were created or that were bought or sold. And the blockchain sends the data back. And then the website can display the data. It can display, what are the latest NFTs or the top ones at the time. But all of this data, it lives on the blockchain. So you could build a project like this where you have some website and it's just showing data that lives on the blockchain. That's another example of a dApp because you have an app and it has this decentralized connection. So you don't have to show NFTs, you could show any kind of data from any smart contract on the blockchain. Now you might be thinking, what is a smart contract? So we'll talk about smart contracts again tomorrow because they're fundamental to the blockchain. Everything that lives on the blockchain is a smart contract. So every NFT that you see here, every collection of NFTs, every new cryptocurrency token that gets added or created on a blockchain like Ethereum, everything that you want to represent, like if you want to represent your online store or your business, school, or your video game, everything that you want to represent and put on the blockchain to live and run on the blockchain, you have to write it as a smart contract. So this is just another word for a class, if you have experience with programming, but it just means some code that is written in the appropriate coding language and is formatted properly. And this smart contract is just code that says or defines what you're trying to represent. So if you want to build an NFT, I mean, you could build it just by creating it at OpenSea, but if you want to build it programmatically, which gives you complete control over it and lets you customize it more, then you build it by writing code to describe it and describe what it looks like, what it can do, what data is it storing, what is its name, what is its description, who can buy and sell, how much does it cost, all of that. You write the code to define or describe that as a smart contract. So that is the term we use. And smart contracts, it could be an NFT, they could be a cryptocurrency token, but they could also be just any definition, any kind of entity. Like if I want to take my online school and I want to put it on the blockchain, I have to write code to describe my online school and describe what it can do. For example, users can sign up for classes. Well, I have to write in the smart contract the code to describe each class, like the Web3 class, the blockchain programming class. And I have to write the code that allows users to sign up for the class. So you have to write all that code to describe exactly what you want to happen. And so we call that a smart contract. So whatever you want to put on the blockchain. Now, usually you're likely familiar with NFTs and cryptocurrency tokens because they're the most popular type of smart contract. But smart contracts can get much more complex. Like I mentioned, it could be your online school. It could be shipment tracking. It could be your business processes, or it could be a video game. And you might be thinking, why would I write a smart contract for that stuff? Why would I want to put it onto a blockchain? Why can't I just build my video game maybe with some other type of software and or make it a mobile app? Well, you could make it a mobile app and connect it to the blockchain. But the point of putting it as a smart contract is so that it runs on a specific type of software, specifically decentralized software. So that's why I would write my project, like my online store, I would write it as a smart contract, because I would write out all of the details, like all the products I have. Can I add new products? Can I delete products? How many of the products are there? Who can buy the products from me? How much does each one cost? How can they buy them? I have to write all that functionality with code, and then I can send the smart contract to the blockchain. Now, you could also just do this all with regular technology, like just build a website. But the reason that we do this decentralization or make these smart contracts, make decentralized apps, the reason is so that you can take advantage of the benefits of decentralized computing. Because a regular piece of software, like a website, it's very different from how it's running compared to how the blockchain runs everything. So running your website just as a regular site, like your online store as a regular site, it's very different from running it as a smart contract. You can do all the same functionalities, but how the functionality is done, how it's tracked, how it's stored, how it's checked, how it's validated, all of that is different. Most obvious way that it's different is that my regular online store is centralized, which means there's a central owner of it, and I control everything about the website, and I store everything. Like I'm storing all my products in my own database, and I'm running the functionality likely with a server. But with a smart contract, it means that the blockchain is actually doing all that work for you. The blockchain is going to keep track of all your products. It's going to keep track of who's buying them, who's selling them, how many are left. So when you write a smart contract for whatever you're building, like this store, his online store, when you build a smart contract for it, once you send it to the blockchain, the contract is now autonomous. It's now running on its own independently. And if you're on Ethereum, which is the most popular blockchain for these types of projects, then you actually cannot edit the smart contract either. It's called immutable, which means you cannot change it once you put it up. You could build another version, but you cannot actually change the code that you already put up. So those are two very different ways of building an application, where you have traditional software, as we call it, versus smart contracts. Now, there are other benefits to building smart contracts and then connecting them to your software. So with my online store, it would be I have my store, but I write a smart contract for the store, as another example of a dApp. And then my website, it's now going to operate very differently depending on how much I want to add that is decentralized. So my online store now, it's really just a user interface or a window to the blockchain, because in this example now of this dApp, the website is not doing the actual work to run the store. The smart contract or the blockchain is actually now doing all the work. So that's another example of a dApp where you go one step further. You're not just allowing cryptocurrency payments, but you're actually replacing all your functionality, or you could just do partial, where the blockchain is actually going to run the website for you. And you could completely replace what you already have, your existing software, if you have it, or you could just replace parts of it. You don't have to write a smart contract for your whole store. You could just write it for a piece of your store. Or you can just add it as a second layer. So you can do everything you're already doing, but then also do it on the blockchain in addition. So you have all these different options of how much you want to integrate the blockchain. So some reasons to build a smart contract. Well, number one is to have the blockchain running all the processes, which means you don't have to involve any third parties in your transactions or in your processes. Instead, the third party becomes the blockchain itself, where all of the interactions, like every user that signs up, every user that does an action, all of that is done through the blockchain. You don't need any other third parties involved to do that functionality. This also makes for effective data tracking and keeping store of data, because the blockchain will actually track every interaction that happens with a smart contract. So this means that you can go back, and anyone can go back and check to see what happened at what time on your smart contract. So if someone goes to your website to buy a product, if your website is actually connected to a contract, then that means when the user buys the product, that gets recorded and stored on the blockchain. Another reason to use a smart contract is for transparency and user trust, because when you write a smart contract, you have to publish it on the blockchain, and all the code is open for anyone to see. So you cannot hide anything in the code that you deploy, that you put on the blockchain. So this helps to establish user trust, because users can check and verify, are you actually going to do the task or the process that you promise? If they send you one Ether token, are you going to send them a product back? They can check the code to see what the code will do. And remember, contracts are immutable, which means you cannot change the code last second. So that's another reason to use smart contracts. Of course, when we use smart contracts, we also allow for payments with cryptocurrency. It's another benefit, because with cryptocurrencies, we have a lot fewer rates of fraudulent transactions compared to transactions with your credit card or the digital dollar. And that's because cryptocurrencies are tracked by the blockchain. So the blockchain is actually keeping track of who is the owner of each fraction or part of cryptocurrency at any time. So if I try to spend a cryptocurrency at one dApp and then go to another location and spend it again, if I try to do double spending or this kind of fraudulent counterfeiting, it's much harder to do that, nearly impossible when it's cryptocurrency, because the blockchain, it keeps track of where the money goes. And before any transactions go through, before any interaction goes through even, the blockchain will validate it or check it to see, are you a suspicious address? And do you actually have enough funds? Are those funds valid, or are you trying to counterfeit them through some hack? So that's another reason to use smart contracts, is we see that it's a lot harder to do fraudulent transactions or to send fraudulent interactions to a smart contract. So those are all some reasons why you would want to use a smart contract. So it's why businesses large and small are starting to integrate Web3, hire dApp developers to add this decentralized layer. So in our course, we'll build tons of different types of dApps. A very simple dApp is just allowing users to sign in without having to use any password. So how you do that is just letting them sign in through their crypto wallet. So this allows for faster sign-in. Your traditional website might have users sign in with their username, their password, but you could replace all that and let them sign in with just their crypto wallet, so it's much faster. Another example is an NFT marketplace like OpenSea. Another example is a to-do list. So any type of website, you can convert it to a decentralized website, like a to-do list where you just display to-do items and you allow users to add some, delete some. All of that could just be a regular website. But you can also make it a decentralized website if you're tracking all the actions through a smart contract. So when I add a to-do list item, I'm not just adding it to your website or adding it to your database. I'm actually adding it to the blockchain, like Ethereum. And so that data gets sent to the public blockchain. It gets permanently stored there. Now, in this course, we will be focusing on Ethereum for the majority. So primarily, we're using the Ethereum blockchain. This is the most popular blockchain for Web3 at this time. And it is actually the blockchain that invented smart contracts. So it's quite revolutionary when it was invented back in 2015. If you want to hear more about the blockchain, then come back tomorrow, because we will talk about Ethereum and Bitcoin more tomorrow night at our next webinar. So we have some more examples here on screen, like a cryptocurrency exchange, a trading bot, a bank. So this would be a bank for cryptocurrencies or cryptocurrency tokens, where users can come to your website or your app and they can take out loans, they can make deposits, they can make withdrawals of cryptocurrency. And your website is just a way to make it easier for them to interact with the blockchain. So just like how OpenSea makes it really easy to buy NFTs, to create your own NFTs, same thing with if you built a bank dApp or any kind of dApp. A large goal is just to make it easier for users to interact with the blockchain. Because you could interact with the blockchain directly, but this would require a higher level of programming knowledge. But most of your audience, they don't want to bother with all that. They just want to go to something easy like a website or an app. or maybe they just want to see NFTs or use cryptocurrencies in their video game. They don't want to do any complex work. So that's why we build dApps, is to expand our audience base. So the bank is like OpenSea because the bank is just the user interface. It's just the window where users can come and they can mindlessly sign up and make deposits, make withdrawals. But you're the one doing the complex work of communicating with the blockchain. That way they don't have to go directly to the blockchain themselves to use your smart contract. The whole point of a dApp is to be the window between the user and the smart contract. That's usually what we mean when we say a dApp. Along similar lines, we have the topic of Web3. So Web3. Web3 and dApps, really talking about almost the same thing. Okay, very, very closely linked. So when we talk about Web3, we're talking about the next phase of the web, where currently the primary way that we enter this phase is with dApps. So when you hear Web3, you're talking about this next generation, this way that websites are built that moves away from the traditional sense of Web 2. So remember, we were comparing a regular store with a store that is a dApp. Well, the regular store, the traditional software, is Web 2. The dApp is moving into technology that is Web 3. So if you are a web developer, it's important to keep up with these trends of how websites are developed, how the software is created. So you must learn Web 3. So that's what we mean when we say Web 3 is this next generation. First phase of the web was when the web was first made, Web 1.0, back in the 80s, when we had mostly static web pages, didn't have many programmers, many users, didn't have much data going around either. But then by the year 2000, we entered the current phase, Web 2, where we have more websites, more programmers, and a lot more data generated, mostly due to social media. But there are issues with Web 2 that Web 3 aims to address. So some large issues with Web 2 are fraudulent transactions, like I was talking about, double spending, counterfeit money. It's a big problem with the digital dollar because there's this double spending problem in computer science where it makes it possible for hackers to spend the same dollar twice when it's a digital dollar. And cryptocurrency was actually the first and the only current method of solving the double spending problem. So it was quite revolutionary back in 2008 when we got Bitcoin. So Web 2.0, yes, one large issue, of course, is these fraudulent transactions, identity thefts. We also have large monopolies that are controlling a lot of your data. I'm sure you've heard about all the issues we have with the internet these days. Like these large monopolies of companies that make it hard for the small business to get ahead, and where the user has little control or say over what happens to their data. So all of those are issues with Web 2. And the goal of Web 3 is to fix some of these issues. Now, we haven't currently entered Web 3 yet. We're still in Web 2 in the transitionary phase. But Web 3 is like the projection of what the web will look like, or the goals, at least, in the future. Now, likely we'll see more technologies pop up to help us move to this new phase. But currently, the most popular one is the blockchain. So currently, the number one way to build projects for Web 3 is to build decentralized apps. So this is talking specifically about websites, but a dApp doesn't have to be a website. It could be any type of software, anything written with code, but usually we're talking about websites. In our course, we will learn how to use different libraries, which just means collections of code that we can use. And we're going to learn how to use libraries to implement Web 3 and to implement decentralization, to connect to smart contracts. like everything I've been talking about tonight. We're going to build all types of features like I mentioned. So one library is web3.js. So this is a JavaScript library that helps you build Web3 projects. Another one is ethers.js for connecting to Ethereum. So there's tons of different tools we will use. These are all built with JavaScript, which means that you can use the tools by writing or coding in JavaScript. So there's a lot that you will learn in this course. It's very hands-on and intensive. If you have prior experience, that will definitely help you. But if you don't have experience, that is fine as well, because we do cover everything from the beginner level starting in week 1. All right, so that to dApps and Web3. I also have this sample steps, this life cycle of how you would build a dApp. And now I don't expect you to understand any of this because there's a lot of technical terms, but this is just an example of how you would go through the steps of building a dApp. So there's a lot of different tools involved, and the job of this course is to teach you in a streamlined way how to build these dApps, because it can get quite confusing as a beginner to figure out, what do I have to learn? And am I building a good project? I don't even know what I'm building. So that's the job of us, is to teach you in a straightforward and streamlined way the different projects that you can build, the different tools that you need. Because there's a bunch of tools out there. So you're going to be learning the most popular and relevant ones. Now I will drop a link to the course in the chat, and we'll go through the course curriculum. So we will go through the 10 weeks just as an overview of what you will learn. And the class begins on Wednesday, so please sign up until spots run out. If you buy 2 courses at once, you get 10% off automatically. All right, so this is our page where you can read more about Web3. You can read more about React, JavaScript. So feel free to go to this page to read more about this course. You can also see the course curriculum, so you can see exactly what you will learn in the course. Again, the course is 10 weeks, so you get 2 bonus weeks, because usually they're only 8 weeks. Week 1, we introduce HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for building a general application. By week 2, we start building our first decentralized application. So first we get comfortable with just a regular app, and then we bring in the blockchain. So we use a bunch of different tools, both blockchain tools and web development tools, because the whole point of a dApp is that you're bridging the two together. In week 3, we continue the project, just adding more features to it. So each week we build upon the previous week. So we build the knowledge and get more complex each week. By week 4, we finish our first project. Then we will have a holiday break just for 1 week. And then we'll go into the second half of the course. So week 5, we're going to introduce React. This is a web development tool for building more complex projects. Week 6, we also learn React. And then in week 7, we learn how to build a dApp with React, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So when you use React, you also are using the other 3. React is just an extra step. Week 8, we build an NFT minting dApp. Week 9, we build a to-do list dApp. So we build a whole range of projects throughout the weeks. By week 10, we talk about how to move to other blockchains like Solana, and how to keep building your portfolio, what to learn next, how to stay learning and keep building your portfolio and preparing for the software developer interview on your own. So by week 10, you'll be able to go off and build projects on your own, research what to build, and have a plan for your next steps, whatever they may be. Usually students that I get, they're looking to get a job in the space, or they're looking to build their own projects and publish them. So those are usually the two main course goals that my students have. So we build tons of different projects. These are 2 feature projects in this course. We have 3 different project or payment plans, rather, not project plans. So these are the 3 options that you have for taking this course. You can take it self-directed, which means that you're just watching on your own. You have lifetime access to our whole video library of past, present, and future. So you can watch back. We've done about 2 semesters now, this whole year, and you'll get all the videos that we ever make in the future as well. You also get our library of code behind each project. So you can quickly build your portfolio by starting with our library of code and using our templates and getting those projects created. You also get access to the community, instructor support, and weekly discussion hour. The other option is the live classes. So in this option, you get everything that we mentioned, but you also get 10 weeks of live classes. We meet for 2 hours every week on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, which is 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You also get 6 hours of live Q&A, help with 2 personal projects, help with resume and interview preparation, and unlimited email and chat Q&A. So if you're looking for that extra motivation to learn, then the live classes is a great option because you can ask questions during the class. We can debug live. We did a lot of that last semester where we were fixing issues live and students were sharing their screen. And so it's a great interactive option. Further beyond that, we have our third option, project help or tutoring plan. So you get everything we already mentioned, but you also get help with building a custom project, including software development if needed, and 10 hours of one-on-one video or phone sessions or software development time. So if you're looking for extra one-on-one tutoring or you just want help with a specific project, then choose that option. You don't have to pay all at once. We do have 3 and 5 month payment plans. So you can choose that at the cart if you'd like to pay over time. And we also have invoices if you need them for employer reimbursement, like professional development reimbursement. So you can select one of the options for the live classes. Currently, we just have the winter option. So this does begin on Wednesday. So we only have a few days left before registration closes. Thanks so much for joining, Gia. Thank you. And if you'd like to email us anytime with any questions, you can as well. I'll drop our team email in the chat. You can also book a call with us here on the website if you'd like to ask any questions over the phone. We also are happy to do that. So let's see here. So we do have last minute registration. It is still open. Even though it's past this official date, we still have a few spots. The effort depends on your course goals. If you want to get a job in the space and if you have no experience prior, then it will take more effort, like 8 to 12 hours per week. But if you want to just watch the course, that is totally fine. There is optional homework and challenges and projects that you can build for every week, but you don't have to. Those are optional. So each week we meet for 2 hours live over Zoom. Yes, feel free to connect there. Thank you, Gia. So to purchase a course, you can select one of the options and then select the course, and you'll be taken to your cart. And then you can add another course to your cart if you want 10% off. That will be automatically applied. Then proceed to checkout, and here you can choose if you want a payment plan You can choose 3 or 5 month payment plans. Those are optional if you don't want to pay all at once. Otherwise, pay all at once with no interest and place your order. And just like that, you'll have access to the entire video library and all the code as well that we've already published, all the videos that we've already taught. And then you also get a link to join on Wednesday for the first live class. So just like that, you'll have access. All access is through the Lumiwealth website. So I hope to see you all in the winter semester, whether you're going to join the self-directed plan, the live plan, or the tutoring plan. If you have any questions, please ask me now. You can also message us on Circle at lumiwealth.circle.so. You can make a public post or send a private direct message as well. We're always happy to chat and answer any questions about our courses or about Web3. And don't forget, tomorrow we will have another free webinar about the blockchain. So more focus on smart contracts and cryptocurrencies tomorrow. Tonight was more about Web3 and dApps. So thank you all for joining. I hope to hear from you online shortly. Definitely don't wait until the last minute. Make sure that you enroll before our spots run out. All right, if we have no further questions, then thank you so much for watching. It's been Alexandra from the Lumiwealth team, and I hope to see you in one of our many Lumiwealth courses from lumiwealth.com.